You learn from your mistakes, maybe a cliche, but for an artist, it's a way of life. Mistakes and happy accidents are often the wow moment. This is an artist's secret to always staying young.
And this is what we explore today on the new Creative India, presented by Absolute Music Series.
Tarun Khiwal was fortunate to find his passion while still in his teens. He is one of India's most celebrated fashion and glamour photographer. We'll see how he has used the process of learning and unlearning to stay on top of his craft.
A very important factor in the ability of an artist to push the boundaries are art galleries and curators. Who is a curator? What does he do? What does it take to put together an exhibition? We try to get answers to these questions.
And we meet Vibha Galhotra to understand her use of a variety of techniques to make sharp comments on displacement, nostalgia, and identity in the urban context.
Through no formal training and happy accidents that transformed into a signature style, Tarun Khiwal has evolved his own language using the medium of photography.
Simple yet glamorous characterizes his style, and he continues setting benchmarks in the field of fashion, advertising, and editorial photography.
I always wanted to do photography, even when I was a kid. I guess around when I was in 10th class, I got the camera. My dad gifted me a camera. And that was the time everything changed for me. I just thought that, that was something which gave me a possibility of entering other people's life. It was like a passport which was given to me that I can enter anybody's life. You just sit with the person and suddenly the person changes completely. The real person comes out sometimes, if you can make them comfortable. So that was something which I thought that, this is the only way I can express myself. Honestly speaking, at that time, even I was not aware about what can we do with photography.
You went to study engineering, and here you are, India's most iconic photographer. Tell us something about that transformation.
I just felt that that is my language. I can express myself through that. Everybody, I guess, is looking for that only. How can you express
yourself?
Somebody wants to be a mathematician, somebody wants to be an artist, somebody is doing it with poetry, or they're singing song or dancing. This was my medium. I thought this medium is the perfect medium for me to kind of express myself, and it was all inside, like, either you do it through the sketching or painting or whatever. For me, I was just dreaming photography all the time after that. I used to make notes about everything, trying to get magazines from wherever I could.
Arun, you've learnt your photography from three top photographers of India, Atul Kasbekar, Hardev Singh, and Prabodh Dasgupta. So how do you think that has shaped your current art, your photography, your language?
Well, language is mine. I would say language is still mine. It's just that when you're working with some photographer, the most difficult part and the first important part for you to do is that come out of the shadow of that photographer, because you will tend to do work like him only. After that, you'll have to do a lot of unlearning also. That's the craft you've learned. With Prabodh, it was more about sensibility, because with Prabodh, it was more about when I was sitting with his, on a dinner table, or when we were traveling together, while he was talking and explaining things on different issues. That's how you learn also. It's not only on the shoot or on the floor you will learn everything. After learning the craft you will learn in 1 year maximum. After learning, then you need to learn the sensibilities of why is he doing things like that.
Finding a good mentor is very important for any aspiring
photographer. It does, especially if he can show you the path that eventually you'll have to go back to your own sensibility. I'm saying you can learn the craft, but you have to go back to yourself to find out what you want to do.
How do you use errors to make your work better?
If you're not making errors, you're not going anywhere. So in my case, especially now the kind of work I'm doing, one day I sat and I just looked at all the mistakes I was making in photography, and then I pulled out some results, and when you pull them out and then you see, okay, fine, in the shoot this was going wrong, and then I picked up many of them, blurred images, out of focus images, when they were shot on wrong speed or wrong exposures and all that, and I sat with them and they were kind of interesting,
These were accidents, actually.
Actually accidents, while you're doing trying to do a perfect thing, and these are accidents, and I got so interested in them that now a lot of my work is actually coming from there only. Those accidents fine-tuned to a level that they start looking interesting.
You mastered your errors.
Well, see, it's actually, until unless you just break the boundaries, you push the envelope, nothing is going to happen.
Did any series come out of that?
Well, a lot of my editorial work is like that. One of my art exhibition was like that, where I, it was like we changed the lens and we forgot to change the aperture, and the picture was like as if there was Christmas, and everything was blasted out, and out of that day I realized that how skin will get overexposed if it is like really badly overexposed.
So what would you describe your style? I've seen your style is very austere and very simple, yet very sophisticated.
I just do whatever I feel right on that particular day. When I start the shoot, and there are few things which are actually, I would say, organized for that shoot, but there is a whole area which is left open for that day. And what happens is my kind of work where there are other artists also involved, like makeup artists and stylists and model. They have so much to offer on that day. So it's an energy flow of everyone. So you don't know where it is going. So I just don't go with this fixed mind that today I'm going to do images like this only. And as the shoot flows, we just flow with the energy.
So I think I can say that your style is more spontaneous and open than structured and very rigid, which is I think amazing.
Yeah.
I think you are so hardcore into the commercial photography bit. How do you manage between your urges of your own art photography?
Well, you'll have to meet other hardcore photographers for that. I don't think that I'm so hardcore in advertising. I just pick up whatever I like.
So in your perspective, is commercial photography and our fine art photography or art photography are two different bodies, or is
Well,
it different?
they are, because commercial work, it is very well researched. There is data which is available for that particular brand, that this brand will do well only if it is shot like this, printed like that, and produced, and then you put it on billboard or this particular newspaper. So everything is so well researched. In art, you do what you feel like you're doing. In editorial, especially, my a lot of people ask me like, what is your personal work like? And my personal work is my editorial work. You see, that is where I just do whatever I feel like. Same fashion job, if I'm not doing for a fashion brand, if I'm doing myself, how would I do that? So that is my personal work. There is a very fine balance now. I just pick up whatever I like. I know the kind of money I have to make.
Tarun, photography has become a very accepted part in today's contemporary art world, even in India. But do you think there is any, benefits or in terms of, art is like a one-off piece, and photography you can multiply the prints, and does it lose its value somewhere? What?
Well, if you just keep it to art, then there is no difference. All right. But if commerce is involved, like how many pieces can be sold and how many prints can be sold, then obviously there is medium benefit. Yeah, but as a piece of art, I think they're both equal.
So in a way, you've also given a lot back to photography now. And you have people dying to assist you from outside countries, not just India.
Yeah, it's because of also that that in my studio, most of the time, most of the work is done by assistants only. Okay. And everybody knows that, that they will light up, obviously there is guidance by me, and then I just click the picture and then I fine tune it, and then that process of that they are doing themselves, everything is a great learning process, and you're doing it on big jobs.
Absolutely.
You see, you're shooting with big models, big magazines, big clients, big brands, and you're making it work on that particular day. So your confidence level is every day going up because you're doing it yourself.
you also won the Hazelblad Masters Award, which is an equivalent to the Oscars, you know. So that must have been the greatest moment of your life, I believe.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised actually, you know. But yeah, that was a very good beginning of my career. Like, you know, from there things started moving in a different direction because I started traveling. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, because of that I traveled a lot also, again, all over the world. And you know, so many other things.
So what's the next thing that's keeping you excited in your work?
Well, I've started experimenting a lot with films, shooting films and all that. I've done some 4 or 5 of them. They're all experimental film, but I think that I'll be doing a lot of films in this year, because it's very exciting for me to see now the images moving, and then you know, I have my own kind of sensibility, which is very different point of view.
From you, that we've learned today is that you must learn to unlearn.
Yeah, that's the key actually. That's the key. You can start over again anytime.
On Zolo Hive New Artist of the Week, Rajkamal Aich creates a fun, quirky theme inspired by monsters for the Zolo Hive.
My primary objective was to make something fun, so I came up with this monster. The character is called Horny Singh. There are 4 variations of him, which will change randomly. The only way you can unlock this phone is if you rub his tummy. There is a button on the lock screen. So if you press that button and keep your phone aside, like, you know, say, what happens is after a preset interval of 5 minutes, loud sound of laughter will come out of your phone. People who feel naughty, like, you know, at least, you know, they can use this theme. Probably they will like it, I guess.
We're at Gallery Nature Morte, and this is where our journey as ManilRohit started.
And we're here to see the land of no horizon. Let's go, check it out.
Let's go.
Peter Negi established Nature Morte in Delhi in 1997, and since then has nurtured experimental forms of art. Like today's exhibition, where 4 artists from the art collective Experimenter are responding to an abstract yet political idea that you can own land but not own the landscape.
I've been working with these land-boring instruments, tools, but these are transformed in the sense in terms of material and in terms of form, because when you look at them, they look like bones, like a transformation from the objects, which is, which has different associations, and to make it enter into the periphery of something which has completely different associations altogether. You know, in this show, I've depicted spaces in the form of archaeological spaces. You know, these construction sites are what we know of. You know, it's sort of a very usual site, but when presented in a definite way, they start looking like dug out archaeological sites.
While Adip Datta saw meaning in the instruments, Sanchayan Ghosh got inspired by a man who is shaped by his landscape.
In the last 2 years, I've been working with the notion of representation of landscape as a kind of user space and how it is interpreted in different mediums or in methods of interpretations, how landscape is looked up in different ways. So this show is basically looking at a very specific landscape in Birbhum district of West Bengal, which is an open mine china clay. But my interest emerged out of meeting a poet who lives there called Harakumar Gupta, who is a Leto poet. Leto is a folk traditional performance form, and I was intrigued by his life and how it is connected to a landscape and how it is transformed with the intervention of industrialization. Here I have tried to collect those forms which are manually made and then layer it with the industrial methodology and how the factory is using the landscape for a bigger industrial purpose.
I actually engage with different kind of urban space in terms of to look at expansion process, development kind of thing, the politics behind the space and the structural development.
The things or ideas that inspire the artist may often be prosaic, abstract, half-formed. It is the artist's job to give them expression through material things. The process of setting up art in physical spaces like art galleries is a fascinating process.
But hey,
don't forget the role of the curator. It is the curator who strings together artworks that collectively tell a story.
So if you have ever wondered what goes behind putting up a show together, today we'll demystify it for you. Here's Aprajita Jain, the gallery director for Nature Morte. Let's ask her about curation. So what do you think is the role of a curator in an exhibition?
I think to get the best works out of an artist within a space, a curator comes in very handy. Also for a solo or an exhibition which has a theme, you need somebody to string it through because generally group shows have multiple artists with various thoughts. So curator comes and strings it all in.
The curator, in most cases, is an editor, is a good editor who fine-tunes the presentation, really. It's exhibition design, it's packaging, really. How you fit the work into the space and package it for the public consumption.
Galleries truly are special spaces that allow artists to interface with patrons of art. It is here that they get a chance to share their vision with a wider audience. And galleries like Nature Morte provide an escape from the known and take you into the strange world that is experimental art. Exploring the relationships between city and the citizen, Vibha Galhotra's work focuses on displacement and identity. The use of different mediums and material has transformed her work in both artistic and intellectual expression.
Vibha, appreciating art is an act of the heart, but your work needs the head too, right?
When I started working in art, it's always about the concept. I always wanted to do work which are conceptually related to the public and social scenario. So that's how I started working, and earlier my work was related to nature only. But now, after shifting to Delhi, there is a site specificity involved into my work where I concentrate more work on the new urbanism, as that was the involvement with the city, that how the city is changing and how it is evolving.
So is the work a reflection of your own personal experiences in some ways?
Personal experiences, readings, study, meeting with my other friends who are activists, but I try to keep it more aesthetical so that people can jump into my practice and they can look through the aesthetics and then they can understand conceptual part of it, and then they can think about those issues, like which I did in Sediment and other Untitled series. where the whole concentration was on the river, Yamuna River, which crosses Delhi. So what I did was I splashed the actual sediment from the river on my canvas as my material.
Do you think it brings about a change?
It does start a conversation. So I won't say that we can completely change, because there you need a lot of things. So, you know, if art doesn't speak about these issues, how we are going to change? I mean, as an artist, I also feel myself as a social responsible person. That change actually has to affect you in some way. So that affected me, and I think I responded to that. I really enjoy using crafted material from India, because that also engages with the site specificity. Because if I'm in India, I use Indian material. I use a lot of crafted objects. I use ghungroos a lot in my work.
Serious issues you're talking about, and ghungroos, how does that fit in?
See, I started using ghungru with one work which is called Beehive. Basically, you know, it's all about layering. As I mentioned, it's a relationship of a lot of things. The way I live, the way I observe things, and the way the city is being researched in my practice. So it's almost every layer which comes and builds up this whole body of work. When I started working on absence presence, so the work started evolving that I want to mirror it again to the public. So, you know, I want to say it in a very playful manner. I wanted to do that toy which we used to play with, the tin toy bird. So, because that was made on Sparrow, and it actually, yeah.
Early days.
Yeah, actually, you know, so it actually sounds like a house sparrow. So I wanted to make that as my sculptural inspiration.
Did you have it here right now?
Yeah, I'll show you. So this is that bird.
I haven't seen this in ages.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. So it has been actually extincting as a toy.
What is this, Vibha?
This is
Take me to
basically from the earlier series we were talking about, sediments and other untitled. So these are the vegetables which are grown at the belt of Yamuna, from Delhi to, say, Allahabad.
Watermelon.
Watermelons and other vegetables which are carrying the higher content of arsenic. So those are the vegetables which I have kind of fused in resin, another toxic material. Yeah. So I wanted to have the toxic into toxic. So that was the whole concept about. People come to these works very close and they like it very much, but then they get to know the concept and then they realize, okay, what we are doing to our surroundings. We can change the viewership for art, and people can understand the more conceptual work rather than thinking artists only like, you know, so making beautiful pictures.
Vibha, it was great talking to you, and we hope your ghungroos make the right kind of noise and transform our cities where the sparrows come back.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Next week on the New Creative India, presented by Absolute Music Series, we meet artists Tukral and Tagra. Their palette as diverse as their creations, dissolving boundaries between fine art, popular culture, product placement and exhibition design.
We visit the Kiranada Museum of Art to understand what goes into setting up a contemporary art museum and how it aims to encourage public interest into new artists and art forms.
And Gunjan Gupta tells the story of her journey into the world of art and how she balances her practice of art with that of a design entrepreneur.